There's a voice deep inside every dad calling him to lead. Society, vices, inner demons, negative thoughts try to dampen and drown out that voice, but it never goes away. Your wife feels it, your children feel it, and your heart and soul feel it too. It's the voice that starts off as a whisper, but then becomes a calling to be the tip of the spear for your family. A calling to play all out and lead by example for your children. A calling to build a legacy that will go on for generations. A calling to be the warrior dad you were born to be. Dads, our children need us now more than ever. To be that beacon of hope, courage, positivity, and strength. It's time to rise as warrior dads together as a brotherhood. If you felt that twinge in your soul, it's time for the Warrior Dad Experience. Welcome to the show. I am extremely excited to have special guest Trunnis Goggins on the show. Trunnis, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, I am. I'm excited to have you. Excited to dive into your new book. First, let's start where I always start. Family dynamic, dad game. What you got going on? Share that with us so the audience kind of knows what's going on from that perspective.
Jeff, I want to be on the record book to see how many people have as many kids as I have. I had 9. One did pass away. I had 4 daughters. I had 5 sons. They're all my pride and joy. I literally probably, even though we now are all grown and apart, I will talk to at least 50% of them. And I have to use percentages because there's so many once a day. So it's fantastic. I've watched them grow up, and now I'm watching them be great adults. I have a grandson who does live with me, and I have 2 other grandsons that live in Indianapolis, Indiana. And I will tell you right now, if they are, we always look, grandparents look at their grandkids as their replacements or something like that. And if they're my replacements, the world's going to be a pretty good place. So
that's awesome. Yeah. And that's an incredible thing, right? 50% you talk to them daily. So has that just always been that way? I'd love to pull that thread a little bit because I think that's unique, especially because they don't live with you anymore, right? So Explain that dynamic a little bit to me.
Yes, we have always been a very close family. My kids and we've always been very close. I call them, they call me, even if it's just a text. It's just what we do. We are a very close knit group.
Gotcha. Okay. And was there, as they were growing up, I know one of the things you mentioned prior to this, like one of the most proud things you are, is that they're so connected. How did that kind of come about, or what did you do to kind of cultivate that connection between them?
Well, I'll tell you, my kids, I have 9. I had 9. It's I've been married a couple times, unfortunately, and each one of them, I had kids, and so my thing was to make sure I kept them together. So I lived in Indianapolis at the time. I really I wanted to leave Indianapolis, but I refused to leave Indianapolis until all my kids got to a certain age where they can be together, or they can go on and do their thing. But I kept them together. I made sure that with visitations or anything of that nature, I had kids living with me. I had kids that did not. I made sure that visitations were always scheduled where it's all on the same time, where the kids got to see each other. I wanted them to know that there's no such thing as half. Okay. You are, that is your brother. That is your sister. It's not about half brother, half sister, and we have the same, whatever. No, you guys are brothers and sisters. And what eventually happened is they all stayed together. As a matter of fact, I have 2 of my kids right now, again, both grown. They both live in the same, they don't live in the same apartment because I think that they live together. I think that would be a totally different story we'd be talking about right now, but they do live in the same complex. And it's my son who lives on his own, and then my daughter who has 2 children. And my son, with all the things that are going on in his life, I will call my daughter just to see, check on the boys, her sons, and I'll call and he's answering the phone.
Mm.
And even though they do not live together at all, they are always together. And it's always been, I think that, if I were to die today, I think that, the number one thing you could talk about, there's a lot bad you can say about me, but one of the good things that you have to say is that I did whatever it took to keep my kids together.
Where did that kind of keep them together force come from for you? What was the spark there?
I grew up in a family with siblings. Again, we had half siblings as well. I have 4 half sisters.
Okay.
We were not together. We were not together at all. And we can go, and I'm not saying this proudly, we can go years without talking to each other. And it's sad because it's lonely, where, my kids have cousins that are out there that they've never met.
Mm.
And it's just horrible. And I want to make sure, and as a brother who lived in a situation like that growing up, and still, at 53 years old, still lived through that. I don't want them to go through that.
Gotcha.
I don't. They should. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, I love that, and I love that fact that they're still so close, and that was an onus and a priority for you in that journey. So let's talk a little bit about, you got a book, right? What's the name of the book? And let's dive into that a little bit.
The book's called The 4 Ps of You. And
Okay.
the 4 Ps, I know I'm a business professor, and I've been teaching business for a long time, and they have the 4 Ps of marketing. And the 4 Ps of marketing, anytime you get into a marketing class, the first thing they're going to talk about are the 4 Ps. Now, I came up with the 4 Ps of You, which are purpose, planning, passion, and persistence. Those are the 4 things that, like in marketing, if you have those 4 Ps together, you can build yourself a marketing plan. In this case, if you have the 4 Ps that I just discussed together, you can build a plan for your life. And the first thing, and the foundation of that plan, is purpose. And when I talk about purpose, I talk about purpose in the sense of, almost like your mission. There was an old frozen pizza commercial. What do you want on your tombstone? Remember that?
Yep.
I'm old, so I mean old. It was old, but that's basically the purpose part. What do you want people to say about you? Your elevator speech, your that. And I talk about how the purpose has to be yours. And then the next is planning. Once you have your purpose, you have to plan to make sure you reach your purpose. Then the other thing is you have to have passion for your purpose. A lot of people, there are people who are doing things in life. They're not doing them because they want to do them. They're doing them because, their spouse wants them to do them, or a friend does it, or everybody does it, so I have to do it. And they really have no desire to do it. And then the final thing is persistence. And I think passion and persistence go together, because if you are passionate about your purpose, you will be able to, because I mean, you live in this world, it's not easy. Nope. And you have to have a level of persistence. And this book can be used, I know it's the 4 Ps of You. You can use these 4 Ps in any facet: personal, professional, spiritual, any facet of your life. You can use these 4 Ps. And if you follow that, it provides a foundation.
No, I like it. So let's pull the thread a little bit on each one of those. Purpose. How many people do you find that have that purpose, that have that mission? Do you think it's a missing piece for people out there in your experience?
It could be. And basically, it's funny you asked that question, because that was the reason why I wrote the book in the first place. I do some teaching for inmates. Okay. There's a program in the state of Indiana, and even though I live in North Carolina, I still do this program in Indiana. And the program is where inmates that are about ready to get out into the real world again, they are vocational skill. Okay. And they're almost, and I'm not saying they're guaranteed a job, because that's not the case, but there are job placement foundations and things like that in place that they can help them go. And these individuals are going out and they're working for huge companies, Toyota, Honda, all these different companies in the state of Indiana, and they're doing welding, CNC, and all these other things.
Okay.
But one day, so I don't do the welding, because I do not know how to do that. I don't know how to do it well. I think I know how to do it, but I don't. But I do not teach that. Mm-hmm. but I do teach the life skills, almost the okay, so here's how, okay, this is what you're going to need to know as far as how to get an apartment. This is what you're going to need to know as far as how to present yourself for a job and all that other stuff. But the first thing I did, one time I was in a class and I said, okay, what are you guys going to do the first day you get out of prison?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And they were like, man, I'm going, and I kid you not. I mean, they had their whole day planned out. They're going to go, and some of them like saying, I'm going to meet my daughter for the first time. You know, and these are people that have been in prison for 5-6 years, so they've never seen their daughter, and now this kid is going to go into kindergarten or something like that, and they want to go to a restaurant, they want to go whatever, take a shower as long as they want, just things like that.
Yep.
And so then I said, okay, so now what do you want to do? And so I had 15 people. They were super, super happy. And then I asked this question, and then reality hit them. Okay. And I said, what do you want? What do you want and how do you want it? Well, I just want a job. I said, well, okay, fine. You got to get a job. That's fine. Where do you want to live? Oh, I just need to get a good place, and they ended up dropping that down to the very lowest level of needs.
Okay.
All right. And so I said, if you do not know what you want when you leave, you will still be in prison. Okay. And as I was leaving, it stunned me that situation happened, because you watch these individuals who have been sitting in prison for 5, 10, 15 years.
Right.
You would think you would have time to know what you want, or at least think what you want. Like, okay, I'm going to buy a house. It's going to be 3 bedrooms. I'm going to get a car. It's going to be, whatever. They didn't. And so as I was leaving, I'm driving and I'm like, there's a lot of people that I talk to in, outside of prison that are just like that.
Right.
And these individuals might have good jobs. These individuals might have, they are doing things, but they're robots. And so then I coupled it up with my father, who passed away. And my father he was an entrepreneur. He was a great businessman. He had, Rick James, Tina Turner, all these different acts, these musical acts back in the 60s, 70s, and early 80s. They wouldn't be where they are today without my dad. And I, I'm not saying that to be like, oh my gosh, my dad's the, he's not, but I'm just saying the things that he did as far as promotion and management and things like that. And when my dad was passing away, he had a lot of things. He was doing a lot of things that were robotic. I don't even think I think he knew what he was, but I don't think he knew what his purpose was. And so this book, when we start out with purpose, that's what it is. It's who are you? What do you really want? What do you want to be known for? And that's what purpose is.
Yeah, I love that question. What do you want? I think if you asked 100 people, 99 would say what they don't want, and only one person would probably say what they want. And it's amazing how we know what we don't want, but we don't get crystal clear on what we want. And that's a huge hurdle, because then you're not going to get it, because you're not crystal clear on what you want. And I love the purpose piece. I love the tombstone. I think we, especially as dads, man, what impact do we want to have on our kiddos? What legacy do we want to leave? That's important stuff as dads to talk about and learn about. What are a couple tools, if you have them, for diving into that purpose, for developing that mission? Is there anything that just pops into your mind that a dad listening, hey, holy crap, they're talking about me. Like, how do I do this? Is there one or two questions you can start to get them kind of down that road?
For a dad, and I'm speaking as a father, and moms go through this too, but for a dad, we have a certain standard. We were told from a very early age what dads are supposed to do, right? Dads are supposed to go to work. I remember growing up watching the Flintstones. What did the dads do? They went, they went to the rock quarry, then they came home, they were tired, they sat on their butt and called it a day and went bowling, right?
Yep.
But we do have a certain standard of what dads are supposed to do. We're told by our dads what we're supposed to do. We have examples with our grandparents and our parents. I watched my mother. I watched my grandfather, both of them. I watched my father. What did? They provided. They brought money into the house. And then they're also, when things go wrong, like the car is broke or this is broke, they are automatically, they're hounded about, this needs to be met. This need has to be met. one thing that dads don't do, dads go fishing, but you know what? Usually dads go fishing, they go on a fishing trip with their buddies, dads, I'm one of the dads. I go out and play hockey. I play hockey. I just played hockey last night, right? And for an hour and a half, I'm with a whole bunch of other people, and I'm out there playing hockey. Not well. At 53 years old, you think you're playing all right, but you're not. But you go and do certain things. What I'm telling, the number one tool is make sure you are spending time by yourself a little bit. I was going through, after my daughter passed away, I was going through just a mental, like, whatever. I didn't know what was going on, but I was still trying to meet the needs of everybody else. I had work needs, I had home needs. You still have to do that, and then the needs get a little different. And I didn't, I didn't take that transition, and it's a long transition, but I didn't handle that part right. And what was going on was I started just like having undue stress. As a matter of fact, I was having weird dreams. It was just really messed up. And so I went to my pastor. So I go to the pastor of my church, and I'm like, dude, I have got I don't know what's going on. I have a problem. Mm-hmm. And as I'm doing this, my cell phone, not this one, because this is totally outdated. It would be totally outdated. But my cell phone kept on ringing. And it was ringing from people at home, ringing from people at work, ringing from people at this, ringing, and it kept on ringing. And I kept on looking at it, and the pastor was watching me. I was like, no, I got to get this. Hold on, let me pick this up, and all this other stuff. My pastor said, you know what? You need to turn your phone off. You need to go out in the woods or somewhere else, and you need to scream. He goes, you need to go out and scream, but you need to be so far away that if you scream, no one's going to hear you. And if you don't hear anybody respond, then you need to shut up and think. And you really need to go back. And even in my book, the very last chapter of my book, it has nothing to do with the 4 P's, but it does have to do with 1 P. And it's called peace. And you watch when we are getting bombarded, and fathers nowadays, I mean, the things that fathers are up against now are just unreal. The issues that we have to face, it's just, I mean, financially, family matters, and all these other things are so much different than what they used to be. You need to go somewhere, and you need to go to a place. Now, you don't have to go way out in the woods. You can go on the boat. You can go, if you have a motorcycle or whatever, go out and ride, but do it by yourself. Don't have music on, don't have anything. Just be alone to your thoughts. Meditate in that. And that's the number one tool, because what you're going to do then, not only are you going to get your purpose, but you're also going to be able to start planning. Okay. And then your passion and persistence come in it, because what's going to happen is you're going to own that plan. A lot of times we can't get our purpose because we're in a reaction, state. We're always in a reactionary state. And I was thinking one day, and I love watching animal shows. And I was watching this show, and I love watching cheetahs. Right. Cheetahs they're awesome. They're super fast. And they just, I love how they stalk their prey. They show up out of nowhere and grab them. Well, there's this one where I was sitting there watching, and the way the gazelles, they're in a herd, the outside gazelles are always the one going to be in the most trouble. Right. Okay. Cheetah comes out and starts chasing this gazelle. And it was one literally on the outside, and he started chasing it. The gazelle just starts taking off. And for the first time in a long time, I realized that the other gazelles, they don't run. They keep on eating. They're looking around. They're just like, man, this is pretty bad. But they just keep on eating. That other gazelle's fine. And sometimes that gazelle makes a move. And that gazelle makes that move, and the cheetah misses, and he loses out, and he goes out because he's spent all of his energy trying to catch that gazelle. And the gazelle walks back to the herd. Well, during the whole time that gazelle is running from that cheetah, like I told you before, those other gazelles are eating. They're getting fed. They're getting strong. They're building their resources. All right. That other gazelle. But when that cheetah did not get that other gazelle, the other gazelle said, well, it's time to go. Right. And they all leave. So that gazelle that was running does not have time to eat with everybody else. So now he has spent his energy as well. And he has no way to regain that energy. And that's where we are sometimes as fathers. we're running, and cheetah is life. Okay.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And we're running. And sometimes other fathers are looking at us like, hey man, that's pretty messed up. I hope you make it. Right. But then after that, problem goes away, we all move on. Well, that other father's like, well, that problem is still going to come back. And now I am definitely the weakest in the herd.
Gotcha.
And so what we have to do is we have to find a way to find shelter from all this reaction. And that's, and until we find that shelter, or until we find a way to get shelter, it's going to be very hard to develop purpose. So that's the second tool.
No, I love the spending time with yourself and quiet. And I love just how the pastor said, just go and scream. I think getting things out naturally that way, rather than reactive to something and just yelling and getting it out, man, is a powerful way to kind of reset, and then being with yourself in quiet and hearing what your mind and soul is telling you from a purpose perspective. Incredibly, incredibly powerful. So I'm a huge fan of meditation, and some of the best times are just when I'm alone and with my thoughts. And I feel like, to your point, we're just reacting. As dads, we're taking body blows all day long. And man, that's a tough way to live day in and day out.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. So we got purpose. Moving on to planning. You said, that's number 2. What from a planning perspective, if a dad kind of spends time with himself, says, man, this is my mission, this is my purpose, what are a couple of actionable strategies he can do from a planning perspective? Planning
for fathers, do not think in a bubble. All right. We are so often as parents, and I remember as a kid, I'll tell you a recent story. I have a son. You remember I told you I love hockey. I have a son who is, and I'm not going to say his name, he knows, we've already had the conversation. He'll know when he listens to the podcast who I'm talking about. I have a son who was awesome at hockey. He was probably one of the best pure hockey players I've ever seen at his age. Okay. He was smart. He was tough. He was strong. His downside was concussions.
Oh, wow.
And he had a number of concussions, but he kept on getting cleared for the concussions. And he had, he had junior teams that are like, hey, I know your kid's only 13 years old, but, he can come up here and play for us at any time. And we will do this, we'll do that. And I would say that I'm not going to sit there and say he could have been in the NHL, but I mean, he could have gone a lot farther than. Anyway, one day he got a concussion, he got cleared. And we were getting ready to go to play hockey, and we were getting ready to go to a camp or something like that. He says, Dad, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to do this anymore. I'm afraid. I don't want to get concussions. I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to go. Now, Dad's dream, my dream was this kid is going to, I'm going to sit in the NHL draft one day, and I don't care if it's round 1 or round 6, he is going to be, he is going to be drafted, and I'm going to smile and I'm going to be happy and this, that, and the other. That's not what my son wanted. And sometimes when we plan as parents, sometimes we plan in a bubble. We plan about what we want and what we have envisioned for that. We envision for that child. And when it doesn't go that way, we are disappointed, and we get disappointed at the kid, And the thing is that kid is making decisions as well. He is planning as well, or she is planning as well for their future. And sometimes that plan does not line up with you. So my thing is do not plan in a bubble. If you are planning to be a great father, the greatest father in the world is the father who makes sure that their kids have everything they need to go where they have to go. That is the greatest father in the world. All right, is to make sure that they have everything they need to go the path they want to go and be successful in that path. All right, now it's within reason, obviously, but still, it is definitely, you want to make sure, because I'm going to tell you, they're going to appreciate that. There are doors that are opening every single day that we as fathers, we didn't have access to at their age. Right. And so we don't understand what they are doing. So when you're planning to be a good father, make sure you are not planning in a bubble. All right. You don't want to do that. Not only when I talk about the kids, I'm talking about, their mother, make sure you're discussing, plans with their mom, and make sure that you are, regardless of what the relationship status is, make sure you're in line with that person. Okay. And the other thing is you have to consider the outside world.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to meet friends. They're going to you're going to go into things that you just like, oh my God, I can't believe this. And you're going to have conversations. You're going to be faced because you know what? You probably did the same thing when you were younger, you know, right. And that's fine. But you have to make sure that you don't plan in a bubble. That's the best way not to be, you know, remember, go back to your purpose. Your purpose is to be the greatest father by all means necessary. And if that's your purpose, then you have to make sure, how are you going to do that within reason? And then you take the right steps to plan. But again, you plan strategically. What are you good at as a father? What are you weak at as a father? I know my weakness, I came from a very, very strong family. My father was extremely strong. And my father did not, I don't care, feelings did not pay the rent. Mm-hmm. And he would tell you that. You know, he didn't care how you felt. All he did is, what do you have to do? And at times, that used to be me. I have definitely changed over time because I have kids that are not afraid to discuss things with me, and they were straight up, Dad, that's not what we want, you know. And I change, but I do know that that's a weakness. Sometimes listening to people's feelings, I'm not, because I know that you have to overcome them in some way, shape, or form. Right. You know, sometimes like, well, you know, I'm not listening to the feeling. I'm trying to find a solution. And as a result, you know, it doesn't go over too well. And then you also have to look at your opportunities and threats. We're just turning this into a SWOT. We're turning this in strength, weaknesses, opportunity, and threats. What's going on externally? So when you look at opportunities, you know, where can I, in order for to be the best dad, what area should I be in? What opportunities do I have to be a better father? What opportunities do I have to give my kids a better education? I know that we lived in Indianapolis, Indiana, and I'm not talking bad about the Indianapolis school system, but I will say this. I will say when I brought my grandson to Asheville, North Carolina, the school system was leaps and bounds as far as education ahead. And I know that my grandson's now going to have a fantastic education here in Asheville, North Carolina. And then you have to look at the threats. I mean, we are living in a time I would not want to be a teenager in this day and time. We're living in a time now where not only are drugs prevalent, but all I have to do is go on Facebook and get them. Yep. I can go on Instagram and get them. They can deliver them. There was a situation I saw on the news where this kid wanted to get some Adderall, you know, because he was trying to study for exams. He wasn't a drug addict. He thought that, you know what, I'm going to get some Adderall. This guy, he got it on Craigslist. This guy literally threw the Adderall over a fence. The guy took it. It had fentanyl in it. The kid died.
Oh, my goodness.
He died. And so these are the things that you face. So as a father, you have to recognize these threats, and these threats are so, I mean, they're leaps and bounds ahead. I mean, when I raised my kids, so I'm raising two different generation kids. You know, I raised my kids in the late 90s and the 2000s. And during that time, I didn't have to worry about these things. Right. That parents have to worry about now. So you do have to worry about the threats, and you have to, and I know it's like, well, my kid may be too young to hear this. They probably are not, and they probably have already heard it. So you need to have those hard conversations with kids, regardless of how uncomfortable you feel.
Yeah, no, I think that's vital for dads, is to have those earlier rather than later, because they're exposed to it so much more now, earlier than later. Especially when we were growing up, right? It was a lot different back then. So definitely agree with you there. The book, where can people find the book? Where can the people find you?
You can find me at TrunnisGoggins.com, TrunnisGoggins2.com, I'm sorry. And you can also find the book on Amazon. You will also find the book at Barnes & Nobles, and definitely go to Trunnis Goggins II and buy it there, because I make a little bit more money when you do it that way.
There you go. There you go.
But yes, you can find it on Amazon. You can find it at Barnes & Noble and any other local bookstore that holds my book.
Awesome. I will link that up in the show notes. Trunnis, it was awesome having you on the show.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Dare to be uncommon. Love, lead, legacy, create a legendary day. And I'll talk to you soon.